Don't break things too badly. I'm going to move this off screen so that we're all here. And look at that in the background. There's a workflow.
And since we are broadcasting to YouTube, if Dave, if you wouldn't mind, for all of you who are listening live, and if you can hear my voice, please like and subscribe. I have an 8-year-old with a YouTube channel who has considerably more followers, and he never lets me hear the end of it. So I would love it if you helped me catch up, because he's getting a little big for his britches. So thanks everybody for joining us today.
Indeed. And hey, thanks everybody for joining. And Trygve, thanks for being a guest host, actually letting me guest host for Busy Webinars, because this has been your purview for a long time. But welcome to another Busy Webinar. And for our attendees that are joining us today, we are taking questions over the Q&A tool. And if you're watching us live on YouTube, please feel free to go ahead and ask us questions there. I'm going to do my best to keep chat or to keep hold of the chat on that side as well. So if you do have something, just let us know and we'll do our darndest to answer questions on both sides. That said, let's talk about choose your own adventure marketing, because that's what we're all here for. So Trygve, do you want to go into a little bit and just kind of talk about what this is going to go through, and then maybe a little bit
about... I think we're dating ourselves a little by even the name of our webinar today about choose your own adventure. So back when Dave and I were young and had dark colored hair, you used to get these books from the library called Choose Your Own Adventures, and you'd read through, and then you'd get to a point where you'd make a decision. And then once you had that decision point, then you'd either go to page 67 or to page 92, and you could read an entirely different story again and again and again. And so as we do our work here at BusyWeb, what we've come to realize is that more often than not, the way buyers interact with people is basically turned into a choose your own adventure novel now. And how we build websites and how we build marketing campaigns are to give those prospects the opportunity to sort of self-diagnose themselves as a potential lead and as a good fit potential customer. So that's what we're going to be talking about today, is how do we give customers what they want when they want it? Because more often than not, the book will tell you that in 2022, a customer, by the time they raise their hand and say they want to talk to a salesperson, they will have done 70% of the research themselves before they even talk to you. 70%, 70. So marketing and sales working together is absolutely critical, Dave.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about BusyWeb and what we do.
So for those of you who are new to the Busy Webinar, first of all, welcome. Second of all, we are a full service growth marketing agency. So we take customers and companies that have an existing platform that need to make more of it, and we help them make better use of it by creating efficiencies in their marketing and focusing better on the right fit customers. So we don't focus just on marketing activities, we focus on revenue opportunities. That touches a lot of different things: inbound marketing, pay-per-click advertising, SEO, great content marketing, great design platforms, all of which we have people on staff at BusyWeb who are capable of handling that. We're also a Grow with Google high impact partner, and we are a platinum HubSpot agency. We love our HubSpot here at BusyWeb. But today we're not. This is sort of the end of the shill of BusyWeb, but there's also sort of a table stakes of how, we have some idea of what we're talking about here. The goal here is to help you learn and help you get better. But if you have some interest in talking about this after the fact, we'll give you our contact information, and we'd love the opportunity to see if we can help you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Trygve. And let's talk about what choose your own adventure marketing can do for you. So I love this, and there's 4 big things that we want to cover. We'll go through these in kind of high profile. And if you have specific questions, again, for our attendees, we've got a lot of folks on here. Thank you so much for everyone for joining. This is our biggest audience we've had in quite a while. So must mean we've tapped onto something that people want. So we're going to talk through what buyers' journeys really are and how that can be translated into choose your own adventure, and then how to build choice into your marketing, how to get the right kind of technology involved in your automation and your workflows, and then some next steps, of course.
And Dave, I think it's our intent that we're going to show an actual real live choose your own adventure marketing path.
Live, right? And in full high def.
Wow.
Amazing. So
awesome.
Hang on. And we're again, if you have specific questions about how to do a thing, we'll do our best to demo that live for you as well. So use, or
even comments, or if we're not altogether as funny as we think we are, feel free and raise your hand. And
right. Absolutely. So let's go. Let's talk about buyer's journey. And Trig, I'll let you lead this section because I know that you're a big fan and have talked at length about journeys.
Yeah, so this is super easy in the sense that poker is super easy. And we can talk about it in theory, and then we're going to talk about it in practice. So to start with, here's what the theory looks like. Is there's a 4-part process, and you could cycle through starting with buyer personas. And that's really where you start with, who are you really trying to talk to? Who is really the good fit customer, and who really needs what you have to offer, and what do they look like? And it's not just a company or a set of things. It really gets into the emotional needs of what that person is and what the frustrations are. And that's one of the places where we start, is when we're trying to write this adventure story, we have to start with the hero, and the hero is the customer. It's not us as the people who are trying to push something on them, especially not somebody in sales. It's what is the best for the customer, and how do we give them, and how do we empower them to do what they want? And so what we do at BusyWeb, and we recommend this for across the board for everybody, is really try and dive into what are the people that you're dealing with, what do they want, and what are they frustrated with?
Right.
And that's different than what do they need and what are they concerned with. Those are important things to think about and deal with as well. But you want to be able to reach people on an emotional level, because once they have that back of their lizard brain starting to ring that, hey, this resonates with me, then they're going to read more, then they're going to talk more, then they're going to interact more. And then that need of somebody who's identifying that they're a potential prospect, that'll bubble up later in the process. But right now, we're just trying to resonate with people on an emotional level. Then what we do is we try and lay this out into this is where the poker analogy comes into play, where it's really easy to understand that 2 pair beats 3 of a kind in poker. But what do we do with that? And how do we make money of that? So generally speaking, Dave, there's 4 different avenues in selling right now. Number 1 is where your buyer is identifying, I have a problem. I might have a personal problem. I might have a business problem. And then I want to try and figure out, what do I do to solve that problem? That's the connect phase. And then third is I'm going to sort of explore what different problems are and problem solutions are, and try to figure out what exactly I can do to help solve that problem. And then fourth, I'm going to want to talk with somebody who I think I might want to solve that, help me solve that problem.
Right.
So that's an easy way to lay everything out. And generally that framework works for everything. But from a marketing standpoint, it really breaks down to the second level there, which is that first part of the process is really awareness that there is a problem, then consideration of what the possibilities might be. And then the third is the decision making. Now, that's when you're making a really informed decision. Obviously, there's a price point that everybody has that really varies. And I call that the Amazon thing, where if the stupid stuff you buy on Amazon, and this applies for you and me both, the stuff that comes in the mail that we hide before the wife gets home so that she doesn't know that we bought it. These are we're talking about really substantive, weighty things. And then in the middle, what we have there is how people are identifying through that process. They start by strangers, and then they end up as customers. So that's really easy, right? It's like learning poker. 2 pair beats 3 of a kind. Straight beats 3 of a kind. Okay, here's what it looks like in real time. If we're going to do this, we need to first put our customer in the center. And in our customer in the center, we're realizing that how we attract them, which is basically saying how are we marketing to them, is just as important as how we are selling to them, which is just as important as how we are delivering the product for them. Mm-hmm. So what we like to focus on is not a typical funnel where somebody pops out the bottom like they just won a prize. What we want to do is put the customer in the center of the universe, because that's really the hero of our choose your own adventure. And they might come into this process at different points, but all of them are as equally important. So if we start with this framework of a flywheel as opposed to a funnel, then all of a sudden we can realize that people are going to come in at different points. And this especially holds true when you're talking about things like referrals, or people who are finding things that you've written online, or maybe somebody who's gotten an introduction. Those aren't the traditional models where they identify themselves to a salesperson and then say, let's talk about my needs. They're coming into the whole process a little sideways, which is great. So let's not actually make it a linear process. Let's make it a circular process. So when we do that, if we go to the next slide, then what we see is this is actually what a buyer's journey really looks like. And it's convoluted and it's weird and it's all over the place. But this is not altogether that weird in 2022, because all of these people who are coming in at different points, and they're doing different things, and they're interacting with the company in different things. I think we at BusyWeb aren't any particularly different than anyone else. We have a website, we have educational material, we do things like this, we have a sales channel, we have all sorts of stuff that people interact with us. And all of those people are coming into our circular wheel. And so if we look at it, I talked about poker initially, where we understand intellectually that two pair loses to three of a kind. But as you plot it out and how do you make money at it, it tends to look more like this. Mm-hmm. I think what's really interesting here, Dave, is if you plot out and you really look at everything from about 2/3 of the screen to the left, all of that's really marketing activities. It's not sales directed activities, which as the company perspective, you don't really have a lot of control over. You're not controlling the narrative per se. You're not giving that traditional idea of sitting down with somebody and asking them qualifying questions. A lot of that qualification is being done already, and those people are self-qualifying. They're choosing which page they're going to go to at next. And if it's not interesting, they're just going to put the book down there and they're going to move on.
Right. Exactly. And as you look at all of these, you can see where having the ability to automate some of this and to give people multiple options can turn your current marketing materials into sort of like a starter conversation that you would have had with a well-seasoned, informative, consultative salesperson, right? Someone that really knows their stuff and is trying to help you. And that's why it's important to have the buyer persona in mind, your ideal customer in mind, because you're trying to solve every way that they could hop on to your buyer's journey. It's almost like a carousel where you can hop on and off the merry-go-round at any point. There's different things that you expect if you're just researching to connect up with a business versus trying to make an actual decision, right? And so if you give people everything that they need, as much as they need, as early as possible in the system, that makes it into more of a conversation. And by the time sales is brought in around the middle of this screen, then it's an informed conversation and you feel like we already get you, or you already get the customer.
And what's interesting is the analogy you use about the merry-go-round is, number one is customers have, prospects really have to be enticed with the knowledge that this is a fun ride. Mm-hmm. And maybe, and by that doesn't mean literally that it's a fun ride. If my basement is flooded, then I'm going to need help and I'm going to need a plumber. That's what I mean by a fun ride. So validating the initial problem is really a good place to start with marketing right now. And that's really that fundamental story element that we're trying to pull through thematically through this whole thing. But if it doesn't continue to be helpful, it doesn't continue to be interesting. Once we've validated that somebody has this problem that really needs to be solved, we need to continue to give them value throughout the process, so that at the end of the process that they're going to throw up their hand and say, okay, now I would like you to potentially solve this problem for me.
Right.
And we've laid out a couple of things here, which is what makes this so interesting. Is there are things like blogs, there are things like marketing emails, there are things like social media, all of which are different entry points and different ways you can get on that merry-go-round, and none of them are wrong. Customers will come on wherever they want, but we want to continue. Once we get them, A, we want to know that they're on there, and B, we want to continue to provide them the value to keep them riding around.
Cool. Well, let's get into the meat of this, because I know people are itching to see how workflows and choose your own adventure can work for them. So as we look at this, the age of self-service and really fitting things into your journey is sort of an art form. So we're going to intuit a few things for you so that you can pick where to make those breaks and where to give people those choices. It goes without saying, I think, if you know BusyWeb well, that the tool that we use for this is called HubSpot. And HubSpot is a CRM, but it's also marketing and sales enablement software that helps you automate all of these touch points. We're going to show you how easy this is, and I'm going to actually give you a deep dive, not a super deep dive, but a overview on how easy it is to create different iterations and automations inside of your marketing tools.
And we're going to talk a little bit more about how technology fits in to that to make your life easier. But you did, just because we love HubSpot internally because it does make everybody's life a lot easier. But there are other ways to do this than using HubSpot. It's a little harder, but
right. And you could Franken-market anything together you want. We, until this point, have mostly used HubSpot or WordPress for our websites. We're using HubSpot now because it more seamlessly integrates into all of these choices for our customers.
Absolutely.
So incredibly important. As we go through, I realized I stepped ahead a couple of steps, and Trygve talked about the flywheel already. So we kind of get to attract, engage, and delight people. There are specific tools that come into play. And so these are some of the entry points on that carousel, if you would, that we can use to automate. So ads will probably fill in and get people into your carousel. And then videos, blogs, social media, and other content, of course, are going to help you get the right entry point, and every question that you ask, every call to action that you offer your customers inside of an email, inside of a blog post, inside of a video, is going to inform the engage process, right? So people are going to go from an ad, click on the landing page, and then they're going to have a couple of options. They're either going to go into a give me more information or fill out a form to tell me more about specific product or service that you're advertising for, or they might interact with you via either a sequence, which is a self-started workflow where a salesperson would actually send people a sequence of emails. And then if you open it or don't open it, you're entered into a different workflow or a different choose your own adventure, if you will. But then that leads you into all of the other things on the list under engage, to manage the leads and to give them a score so that it actually pings people. If you interact enough with something at BusyWeb, for example, if you go to 5 of our pages and you download a form and you download a white paper, or if you attend an event more than a few times, it's going to set us a note that says, Mary's really interested in XYZ. And we can tell what Mary's interested in, and we can actually converse with her about that in an organic and helpful way. So the more you know, the more helpful you can be. And that's really what all of this is about, to be as helpful as possible as early in the process in a way that lets you, as the user, as the reader, own that control or own that content. And then it moves into, the smart content, and we can deliver an entirely different website depending on what we know about our customers. So if we know that they're a CTO or a CFO of a major organization and are mostly looking into ROI, we can give them a completely different website than someone who's maybe on the tactical side and just trying to learn about SEO and just give them what they want. So it's a big list. And again, it goes into the whole it's complicated side where all of this is part of what we deliver. So again, I know people want to see how all of this works. So let's talk about
go back a second, because I think what's really interesting is you're talking about the sales process, but everything in the red box there, that's marketing. So there's no the line of demarcation between sales and marketing and really championship level companies right now is really being obliterated. And the idea that marketing, it's no longer an assembly line where marketing gets leads and they give them to the sales, and the salespeople give them the other thing. That first part, it's really moved more to a restaurant model of having a front of the house experience and a back of the house experience right now. You know, the bartender can order your food just as easily as the waitress can. And so a well-informed customer now is going to pick whoever's the person who's nearest to them and saying, hey, I'm ready to go.
Right.
I want more. Meanwhile, then the back of the house still has to deliver, which is just as critical as important as the first thing. But what's really fascinating here, Dave, is as we're talking about the buyer's journey, there's really the idea of sales versus marketing really doesn't apply anymore. It's really sales and marketing having to work together.
Right. So let's talk about how to make that happen. So with technology, the workflows and the choose your own adventure stuff isn't very hard to do. Now, it's a little bit difficult to figure out how to do it and to give people good entries in. And so the rest of our talk today, we're going to be focusing on how to make those decisions and how to give people the right content that they're looking for without getting too pushy, right? So as we look at getting the right content, I think this is a new layer that we're going to put on top of the buyer persona, and that's segmentation. So if you're separating your customers into groups based on their traits, I hinted at this before, but we can give them a different website.
I missed my cue. What is segmentation, Dave?
Segmentation is the way to give people everything that they're looking for because you know who they are, right? And so the first step in creating a choose your own adventure program is to really analyze what the needs are of the disparate kinds of people, either by type of person, what level are they in their career, by problem that they're trying to solve, right? So we all probably have 3 or 4 different things that our product or service can solve for customers. So identifying those or putting them into life cycles. So
the easiest way that I describe segmentation is as a pet store. So we own a pet store. We sell dog food, we sell cat food, we sell bird food. If we have a sale on dog food, we want to tell the dog food people. We don't want to tell the cat food people because they're going to be mad that we're having a sale on dog food, not cat food. Right. And we're definitely going to want to tell the bird people that we're having a sale on dog food because then they're going to wonder where their discount is either. So by specializing down a little bit further into areas of interest, and again, getting back to that original problem being solved, then you're talking the language that people want to be talked to.
Right. And internally for us, another layer that we need to put in is the subscribers, the leads, and the customers, because that's how engaged those people are with our organization. So
what's the difference between a subscriber and a lead?
So a subscriber is simply someone that has registered at some point that they're interested in your content. So they're subscribed to your email newsletter, or they watch your YouTube channel, they've hit like, and they connect up with you. Once they become a lead, or the trigger that makes someone a lead is they have some sort of a purchase intent. So if they want to do something with you other than just read your content and engage with you, and that's through a number of different levers, right? Downloading a form to have a meeting, or maybe downloading a different white paper or a different asset that has more of a purchase intent. So the difference between, subscribe to our newsletter as a call to action, and a white paper or a quiz to identify what your best keywords are in our instance is probably a little bit closer. And so as soon as we know that they're really asking the right questions and or want to talk to us, that's when they become a lead.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you.
And there's lots of kinds of segmentation, right? So as we look at the segments or the buckets that we can put people into, whether it's geography or what they're interested in, their psychographics, their attitude, their values, their interests, what kind of device they use is pretty high level for folks, but it's really important to note if most of your customers are coming to your website over a phone versus on a computer, you need to identify how to make your experience for those people as easy as possible. Having multiple drop-down forms on your website is not useful or usable for people that are on a 4-inch screen. So making sure that you're as clean and clear as possible for that, and probably giving them a slightly different website based on the size of screen that they're viewing on. And whether it's behaviors or needs or even values, what the win is for working with you or for engaging with your customer, that's where it comes into play.
Got it.
So we have our segments, we know who our customer is, we know what we want to do. Now we get to build those workflows. And I'm going to share, or Trygve, I think you could share the different kinds of workflows as we come up. And then as soon as we get through these next couple of slides, I want to give a demo on what a workflow actually looks like. This is an example, of course, but we're going to go live into this. And if you have a specific workflow that you're trying to solve for, why don't you pop it into Q&A for the folks that are attendees, or lock me in on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/busyweb and ask the question on the live video that's published right now. And I'll go ahead and we'll try and solve for that for you as it comes through. But what we're thinking here, and you can kind of see this on the screen, at every section inside of our automation tab inside of HubSpot, we've got a little plus sign in the middle. That plus sign can be split out into next steps. This is where the choose your own adventure stuff comes in. So underneath the if then branch that's right up on top here, and I'm pretty sure people can see my mouse when I'm on this screen, but at the interaction, if the ad type is a kind of business, image, or poster product, if they want us to send them a notification or if they don't interact at all, we're going to treat this slightly differently. And all of this stuff is easy in dropdown where you can choose how to interact and what to do. So Trygve, share with us a few of the different kinds of workflows.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different workflows, and here's just some of the ones that we use that to sort of bridge the gap between sales and marketing. I think, the big one is when a new lead comes in and somebody has actually thrown up their hand and say, I want more, then I want to learn more, then you have to get to them right away. And that's just a service agreement. So making sure that you have your ducks in a row, making sure that salesperson gets notified that happened, that somebody's come in, what they're interested in. That's a great way to use a workflow. Similarly, if something as simple as scheduling a meeting. I know, Dave, you and I are both really bad when it comes to details, and we just run off our calendar. And if you ask Dave and I at 8 a.m, what are we doing today? Our reaction is going to be, I don't know, unless I look at my calendar. So right. Having notifications pop up that you have to be at a meeting, that's an easy way of creating a workflow that just about anybody can do right now. And again, that sales rep thing that I talked about is letting that sales rep know that they've been there, because sales reps typically have, they might be in the middle of something, they might be doing something, they might just not get it, they might not see it. So letting them go and having them say, yes, you've been notified, then it's on the salesperson to take the next step and continue through that buyer journey. And similarly, sometimes people just want more information. Sometimes people are tire kicking. Sometimes it's not a good fit right now, and that's great. That doesn't mean that lead is bad. It means that lead's not ready. And so giving that lead more value and more information as they need it through some behavioral choices is a great way to use workflows to really grow the advantage.
Absolutely.
Within that, and if you go to the next page, I've got some even more. So once you subscribe to a blog, then hey, great, thank you for coming to join the blog. Here's what you're going to get.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that we do as a sales team as well is anytime a lead goes cold after 6 months, or we've had a meeting that hasn't gone anywhere after 6 months, then that gets put back up to the front. And also, I think one of the classic workflows is customer feedback.
Yes.
So hey, how are we doing? And one of the really interesting things that I heard last week at the Inbound, the big giant marketing conference that I went to, Dave, was the idea that the 5-star reviews aren't ever helpful to a company.
Mm-hmm.
Because those are people who are raving fans. And the 1-star reviews aren't helpful either, because the 1-star reviews, people are just having a bad day and they're going to take it out on you.
Right.
Where the really good quality information is in a 3-star review, because that person thought enough of you to give you a really honest feedback.
Mm-hmm.
and let you know what you can do to change. So that there's critical information for growth in there.
And Trygve, Adam had a great note in here. He said that one of the things that you can do as one of these workflows entry points is sending a message that points out a specific issue that your client might be having that they're probably not even aware of. Like in our case, marketing agency, one of the easiest things to do is to say, you're missing a few things on your website that are probably blocking you from getting found on Google.
Yeah.
For example. So here's a couple of tips to rank better. Or, you're probably not getting the right kind of leads that you're looking for because your website's a little bit counterintuitive for what we're guessing is your best audience. So here are a couple of things that you can do. That's fantastic feedback, Adam. Thank you. Let's go one more group of workflows, Trygve, before we get into the tour.
So on a macro level, some of the great things that you can do with workflows is, and this is truly the kiss of death that we see at BusyWeb all the time with customers, is nobody ever sells one thing. They typically sell 2, 3, 4, 5 things. And so if you've got a customer who's bought one thing, tell them about the other things. You've already established that great relationship with them. But the worst thing in the world you can hear from a customer is, oh, I didn't know that you did that.
Right.
I'm so sorry. So telling them more about other things that you do, as just even something as simple as, and you see this in really smart email newsletter promotions, is there's a subscription button at the bottom. And you would think, well, that's weird. Why are you asking me to subscribe to a newsletter that I'm already subscribed to? It's not for you. The expectation is that you're going to share it with others, and I want them to subscribe to the newsletter.
Bingo.
And then also celebrating some culture as well, identifying who your best prospects are, the people you really enjoy working with, confirmation emails for the events. Everybody who's joining us live right now, they were put into a workflow and they got a confirmation that they were in the right place. And I think about an hour ahead of time, they got a notice that, hey, that we were doing that, the ball was going to go up. And even something as simple as celebrating an anniversary or a birthday. Everybody really likes to be remembered, and everybody really likes to have something celebrated. So something as small as that can make all the difference in customer retention.
Bingo. So what are these workflows? And let's go through a little bit of demo so that you can kind of see how these work inside of HubSpot. And again, if you have a specific use case, feel free to log that into the Q&A, and I'll do my best to try and answer how that might work, or at least give you a little bit of a preview as to how a workflow is set up. Now, I'm going to go into a workflow that we use at BusyWeb for people that respond to a specific ebook download. So if you've attended any of my digital summits, I was in San Francisco a few weeks ago, and then Minneapolis, and I'm heading to Raleigh on Monday for the digital summit. This is the workflow that happens when someone goes into the download for an ebook, for an inbound marketing ebook. And so these are people, they know it. And I tell them, if you would like to see an example of a workflow in process, go to this page. And inside of that page, there's all kinds of stuff that happens. So when they fill out the ebook form on the landing page. It sets the contact property life cycle to a marketing qualified lead, because as a team at BusyWeb, we've defined that what we want to do with this person is set them up as an MQL, because that's one of the things that we've all agreed at BusyWeb that counts as becoming a lead. If they go to the website and they download something, that's an action, right? That's not subscribing to a newsletter. That's not a lead yet, as Trygve mentioned before, but they're asking for something. So we're qualifying them as a marketing qualified lead, which then rotates between Trygve and I. And then the lead source becomes unknown because we're setting that up to become qualified by sales, to become an SQL. That's all kind of sales geeky speaky, right? So if the lead source, or as soon as the lead source becomes known, if we go through Trygve or I set this up and we say that it is in fact a lead, then this track happens. If we don't, if for some reason we just delete it, then the action goes back to assign it and say, actually, this is a fail safe in case Trygve or I miss the email. And so if we don't, Jen, our HubSpot guru, has set it up so that if we assign the property value, great. If we don't, it sends us a note to say, hey, go ahead and remember to please assign that property interest, or the interest inside of that, for whoever downloaded this. From there, we set the lead status, we go in, we wait a couple of days. If they click yes inside of the Q&A, if they want to meet with us, then we go through this workflow, right? So they've asked us for a specific thing, and then we set it to a sales qualified lead because we've actually connected with them and had a meeting. And then the task comes in, create or call this inbound lead ASAP. And actually this email is kind of fun. It actually has a little animated GIF, and it's, I believe, from How I Met Your Mother, where it's Barney barging into the room and says, hey, come and get it. But if they don't set a meeting, then we go here and then we send them another email. And that email looks like this. Here's actually the open rate, but you can see the email when I click on it. So, hey, thanks for downloading our guide a few days ago. And then we give them a few more options. There's a smart marketing goals template. There's a how to calculate ROI. There's 5 easy inbound marketing ideas. And of course, there's another meet with Trygve. So we actually give them 3 options out of this email because we're trying to open up our opportunities and kind of widen the potential interactions. By the way, each of these enter that person into a new choose your own adventure, a new workflow. So that's kind of fun and easy. Let me just, nope, I don't want to do that. I got to actually hit the back key. This is where having a full screen is a little bit tricky. Actually, I'm going to go away from full screen for a minute, because that way I can just hit, oh, it opened in a new window. That's why. I can go back here, the inbound ebook. Okay, so here we go. So from there, they go in here and we create a new branch. Now, if I wanted to have a third option for this, again, all I need to do is hit the plus button. And then there's all of these potential extra steps inside of my workflow. So I can enroll them in another workflow. I can send them a webhook, which is just a link to another page. I can do another if-then branch, which would turn this into another do this or don't do this. I can give them internal communication, or I can give your team internal communication. This is the rotate leads and send the reminder if Dave or Trygve doesn't follow up with them. I can send them an email. We can add in Slack if we wanted to. We can rotate records, create them, and then we can actually do retargeting via ads right inside of this tool. I can add to ads audience, and then that person will receive an ad from us reminding them that, hey, if you're interested in inbound marketing, we have some additional tools, and then that can get them back into a new interaction. We have a workflow about those folks who have responded to our landing page that we have for that specific ad campaign. So there's property values and other things inside of here. You have the ability to connect specific apps.
It seems like a lot.
Yeah.
How does this make somebody's life easier?
It's tough, or it's not tough to set up, but it takes a little bit of time to set up. You need to focus on what happens after it's set up. So this makes your life easier because the robot is doing the work for you after it's been set up. Yeah. Right. So you've turned your website into a helpful concierge that is ready and available 24/7 and interacts with that person immediately as soon as they've interacted with you. So, whether it goes all the way down, if they make it down to successful, it actually sends a note that says, this could be the big one, and assigns it to the contact owner, right? So all of those tasks are inside of the system. You can see it's kind of an all-encompassing thing inside of this workflow. So as
a lot of these actions are taken by who the person is in the workflow. It's not
right
asking somebody to follow. It's not like going to Disneyland where you have to follow in the line. They're going in the way they want to go in.
Exactly. So we have checklists, we have guides for LinkedIn that we've used. So, and I can browse this and you can see what happens with it when it goes through here. There's a lot of things that happen inside of that one. I can actually clone my workflows. So once I have a fantastic workflow, I can just duplicate that workflow and change the inputs. So once you've done one of these really well, you can have many of them that do slightly different things, all inside of, a couple afternoons.
Wow.
So incredibly powerful, incredibly helpful and easy. And the goal of all of these, again, is to make the marketer's job easier and to interact even better with the people that you're trying to reach. So, if we're going through this one, we've got a rotation between owners. We go in here and then we're giving them an additional email about what happens. So if they go to this page, then they're going to see this email and it gives them more detail on what they're looking for. Right? Sometimes we have workflows that include videos that have content. One of the things that I should probably show folks, actually it's a little bit too nerdy, but there's interesting and helpful content that you can give via sequences for sales teams that lets you as a person, if you've interacted with someone before, send them a number of different workflows or helpful backups after they've visited your website the first time or done whatever you did. Anonymous attendee asks, how do you find the time to create these workflows? And that's a great question. And having a partner is a great way to do that, but you just have to set aside a little bit of time. One of the things that I should go back to, because I get that this is a pretty big ask. If I go back to workflows,
there's like 4 questions here. Wow.
Yeah. So this is great. So thank you for asking those questions. And if I go into create workflow from template, this makes your life so much easier because I can instead focus, and this should be a little bit familiar to folks because Trygve talked through what those workflows were that we were looking at before. So if I'm looking to, for example, celebrate an anniversary, so every time someone's birthday, if I have that information in my CRM, or the anniversary of when that person started working with you, you can use this template, and I click it and it takes me right into the building of the workflow. And all I need to do is add additional actions. So if then, and that gives me A or B. So if the contact property is, let's see, became a customer date because this is an anniversary, is,
well, let me skip to the second question.
Yeah.
I think the second question is a good one. Where would you start when you have multiple kinds of programs and events? So that sort of leads to the first question. So I'm going to answer the second question first, which is once you create, if you have an event, like let's say a trade show or something like that, where you want to do specific follow-ups after the fact, if you plot all that down and can build automations around it, then you're giving those people that you interacted with at the trade show their own opportunity to interact with you on their own way. Right. And if you have that procedure down, using an automation tool like HubSpot, you can just duplicate and change the name of the event. So that, in terms of speeding up time and planning on how to do that, using a tool like this would it be absolutely helpful. The next question they ask is, are the emails sent and created through HubSpot? The answer is yes. How we're showing you today is used through HubSpot, which is one of the reasons why we like it, because everything we need in order to do this is in one place.
Right.
Can you do this if you don't use these tools? Absolutely. Is it harder? Well, you necessarily need to use HubSpot to do this? No, you can do it with other tools, but it would be harder to do.
Right.
So we're not trying to push HubSpot as much as say, hey, from a marketing standpoint, this is tremendous. So then the last thing is, how do you find time to create these workflows, which is the first question, which you were working on answering, Dave, is it does take time to build out. However, you will be able to realize time savings because all of that automation should free you up to give a consistent customer experience.
Right.
One of the reasons why McDonald's is so popular is a cheeseburger in Peoria, Illinois, tastes the same as a cheeseburger in Santa Fe, New Mexico. That's because they work on giving a consistent experience. Now, whether or not you order through the drive-thru or at the window, that's up to the customer. So that's what we're trying to do, is how do we create a consistent customer experience in a B2B feel?
Right.
I hope that answers your question for you.
Yeah, and I think that's a great spot for us to kind of pivot, because I took people through a little bit of a tour of how workflows are set up. But the next section that I want to kind of cover is what happens where you're going. So, as we're going, you want to figure out who you're sending to and make sure these are reminders inside of the process of creating workflows to decide what content you're sending at one point, to what segment. And again, we already have our segments and we can assign those as we go through. And then it's important to think about what you're measuring and to build reports around who's doing what. So you may have noticed, and I'll go back into that workflow again, I can see inside of each of these, I can just look at the top. I can see, okay, well, this one had 249 people enrolled in it. When I click on this, it's going to give me lists, and I can go into the email. So Smart Goals email right here, it gives me content details, what my open rate is, what my click rate, and what my reply rate is. So I can see what they clicked on. I can see the people that are engaged the most, and I'm going to skip right over that because I don't want people to have their information shared on here. I can see the engagement over time. You can see we stopped using this around June 1 of 2020. So I went back kind of deep in our list, but you can see who interacts, what they interact with, the email clients that they're using, and all kinds of other stuff inside of this. So it makes it super easy to keep up with and see what people are actually doing when you're on here. So remember to use attribution. And something that we're going to be talking about next week in our HubSpot user group. BusyWeb is the host of the Midwest Manufacturing HubSpot user group, or HUG. And this is the place for all of our clients and all of our friends that work in manufacturing to ask deeper questions. We're actually going to be going into the campaigns tool, and that's the master attributor of everything. I can go all the way back to an individual ad campaign, a specific social media post, or anything that I'm doing, and just say, well, how much is our social media team bringing in revenue? And I can affix revenue to individual actions. And that's where the attribution stuff gets really powerful and super helpful to marketers, because you can say, see, this LinkedIn post is where Mary Smith first came online with us. And she interacted with 7 other things before she got contacted by the sales team. And then the sales team actually closed this deal, and it was for $3 million. So that LinkedIn post was worth $3 million. Super easy to give real data that helps you support the kinds of content that work best for your business. So I do want to open it up to ask additional questions. And I think this is a good spot for us to pause and to probably shut down the live stream. I don't see any additional questions on the YouTube channel, but again, remember to go to us at youtube.com/busyweb. And I've posted the link in the chat if you missed that. So please go ahead and like and follow, smash that button, as the YouTubers would say. But I am going to stop the live share, because I want to give our attendees the opportunity to ask live questions, and I don't want you to worry about if we're broadcasting that live for posterity. So I am going to stop
YouTube
the live. And so